On the day the alien delegation arrived, I was replacing a cracked filtration coil in Habitat Ring C, knee-deep in coolant, and regretting every life choice that had led me to maintenance work on the most politically sensitive station in human history. The station, Concord Spire, floated in the quiet gravity well between Earth and Mars, a cathedral of glass and metal built to host first contact talks. It was beautiful from the outside. From the inside, it was a maze of humming corridors, nervous soldiers, and diplomats who walked like their shoes were made of glass. No one noticed me. That was the point. I'd learned a long time ago that being invisible had its advantages. You overheard things. You weren't expected to have opinions. You weren't asked to want anything. The arrival alert pulsed through the station, 3 low tones, then silence. The Celt had docked. They were taller than humans, willowy in a way that made you think of wind moving through tall grass. Their skin had a soft, pearlescent sheen, and their eyes, well, their eyes unsettled most people. Too reflective, too still, like mirrors that remembered everything they'd ever seen. I finished tightening the coil, sealed the panel, and wiped my hands on my coveralls. Through a nearby viewport, I saw the first of them glide down the corridor, flanked by human security and translation drones. At their center was her. I didn't know her name then. I only knew that she moved differently from the others. Where the rest of the delegation walked with ceremonial precision, she walked like she was listening to a rhythm only she could hear. She turned her head slightly, and for half a second, her gaze crossed mine through the glass. I looked away immediately. Not because I was afraid, but because I'd learned that when people with power noticed you, it usually meant trouble. The Celt had been watching humanity for decades before they finally revealed themselves. Their technology was centuries ahead of ours, but they didn't come as conquerors. They came as devaluators. That made everyone nervous. Officially, the talks were about trade, shared research, and cultural exchange. Unofficially, everyone knew the truth. The Celt were deciding whether humanity was worth a deeper alliance, or whether we were too volatile to be trusted with a wider galaxy. The station buzzed with tension. Generals demanded leverage. Politicians demanded concessions. Corporate representatives demanded access to Celt technology. Everyone demanded something, except me. My job stayed the same. Fix what broke. Stay out of the way. Eat in the maintenance bay. Sleep in a bunk that hummed when the station adjusted its orbit. 3 days after the arrival, I was rerouting power through a secondary corridor near the diplomatic wing when I heard voices. One was human, sharp, controlled, practiced. The other was musical. The translation drone struggled to keep up, its soft mechanical voice lagging half a second behind the Celt speaker. You ask for assurances, the Celt said, but you offer only fear. We offer cooperation, the human replied. But cooperation requires trust. Trust is not built from demands. I paused, tool in hand, half hidden behind an open wall panel. Then I heard her voice. It was the same one I'd heard in the corridor, but closer now. Warmer. Curious. You fear them because you wish to control outcomes, she said. They fear us because they believe we already do. There was a brief silence. She is the observer, the human said, quieter. Her role is unique. I observe, she replied simply. I should have left. Instead, I shifted my weight, and a loose tool clinked softly against the metal floor. Every head turned. The security officer's hand went to his sidearm. I'm sorry, I said quickly. Maintenance. I didn't mean to, I'll just. It is all right, she said. Her eyes were on me. Not sharp, not cold, just focused. What is your function here? She asked. I fix things, I said. Then, realizing how small that sounded, added, when they break. A faint, almost imperceptible tilt of her head. Interest. Then you are essential, she said. No one had ever said that to me before. Her name was Esalen, or at least that was the closest the translation drone could manage. She was not a diplomat, not a general, not a scientist. She was an observer. The Celt believed that civilizations revealed their true nature not in what they claimed, but in what they did when they thought no one important was watching. Esalen watched everything. And for reasons I still don't fully understand, she started watching me. It began with small things. I'd be repairing a conduit in a public corridor, and I'd notice her standing at a distance, pretending to study a wall display. Or I'd be eating alone in the maintenance bay, and she'd pass by, always with an escort, always with that same thoughtful expression. One evening she stopped. "May I sit?" she asked. I nearly dropped my food packet. Sure. I mean, yes. She sat across from me, folding her long fingers together. The translation drone hovered nearby, humming softly. "You do not join the others in their strategic discussions," she said. "I'm not invited," I replied. Then, after a moment, and I wouldn't know what to say if I was. "What would you want to say?" she asked. The question caught me off guard. "I don't know," I said honestly. "I guess that we're still figuring things out. That we're messy. That we're scared. But we're trying." She studied me for a long moment. "You did not ask for anything," she observed. I wasn't aware I was supposed to. Her eyes flickered, an expression I'd later learn meant amusement. Humans, it turned out, were very loud with their wants. They wanted Celt energy systems, Celt medical technology, Celt navigation algorithms. Some wanted military secrets. Others wanted political guarantees. The Celt listened. They always listened, but they rarely answered. Esalen kept coming back to talk to me. About small things, at first. How the station worked. Why humans drank bitter liquids and called it enjoyable. Why we decorated our living spaces with objects that served no function. "Because they make us feel like ourselves," I said once. "What is yourself?" she asked. I had no good answer. One day, I asked her a question in return. "What do you want?" She looked genuinely surprised. "I am not here to want," she said. "But you must," I insisted. "Everyone does." She considered this. "I want to understand," she said finally. "That's a good want," I said. The talks began to deteriorate in their second week. Someone leaked a partial Celt data file. The media exploded with speculation. Military leaders accused the Celt of manipulation. The Celt accused humans of theft. Tension coiled through the station like a drawn wire. One night, an argument in the main council chamber turned into shouting. "You came here judging us," one of the human delegates snapped. "Yes," a Celt replied calmly. "As you ask." "No, we asked for partnership." "You asked for advantage," Esalen said quietly. The room fell silent. "Every proposal you have made," she continued, "has begun with what you wish to take, not what you wish to give." "That's how negotiations work," someone said. "Is it?" she asked. "Among your own kind, perhaps. But you do not know us." "And you don't know us," another delegate shot back. Esalen's gaze drifted, just for a moment, to where I stood near the back wall, assigned to fix a malfunctioning environmental panel. "Perhaps I am beginning to," she said. That night, she found me in the maintenance corridor overlooking the station's outer hull. "The council is considering withdrawal," she said. "That sounds bad," I replied. "It is disappointing." We stood in silence, watching Earth turn slowly below us. "Why me?" I asked suddenly. She turned to me. "Why you what? Why do you keep talking to me? You could be speaking to anyone. People who matter." "You matter," she said simply. I let out a quiet laugh. I really don't. You do not demand, she said. You do not posture. You do not pretend to be more than you are. You simply are. That's not exactly heroic. Heroism is a story your people tell themselves, she replied. I am more interested in truth. She paused, then said softly, My people choose allies carefully. Something in her tone made my chest tighten. The breaking point came 2 days later. A human security faction attempted to isolate part of the Celt delegation, claiming it was for their protection. The Celt interpreted it as a containment attempt. Systems locked down. Corridors sealed. Weapons came online. I was in the wrong place at the wrong time, trapped between 2 security fields with SLN and a handful of guards. This is escalating too fast, I muttered, working frantically at a control panel. You could leave, she said. They will extract you. And leave you here? I asked. No. She watched me with that same unreadable focus. You gain nothing from staying, she said. I'm not trying to gain anything. The words slipped out before I could think about them. The panel sparked, then the field flickered and died. We hurried through the corridor, alarms echoing around us. Later, when the crisis finally de-escalated and no one had fired a shot, the council chamber was silent with exhaustion. The Celt delegation stood together. The humans waited. SLN stepped forward. My people have reached a decision, she said. Every breath in the room seemed to stop. We will not form an alliance with your governments, she said. A murmur of shock rippled through the chamber. But, she continued, we will begin a different kind of exchange. She turned and looked at me. We will send an observer to live among you, to learn without authority, without privilege, without demands. My heart started pounding. And I have chosen him. The room exploded into noise. What? That's absurd. He's just a maintenance worker, someone said aloud. Yes, SLN replied. He fixes what breaks. And he does not believe he is owed anything for doing so. She faced me again. You did not ask to be chosen, she said. That is why you were. The months that followed changed everything. The alliance didn't look like what anyone expected. There were no sweeping technology transfers. No grand declarations. There was just
SLN.
Living on Earth. Walking through cities. Watching people argue. Laugh. Fail. Try again. And me, assigned, somewhat absurdly, as her official liaison. Do you regret it? I asked her once, as we sat on a quiet overlook above a crowded city. Regret is a heavy concept, she said. But no, I am glad. Why? She looked out at the lights below. Because your people are not what they demand to be, she said. They are what they do when they think no one important is watching. She turned to me. And you, she said, are very good at being someone when no one is watching. I felt my face heat up. That's not exactly a compliment. It is the highest one I know, she replied. I never became famous. I never became powerful. But sometimes when humans and Celts sit at the same table now, really talking, not negotiating, I think about how close we came to failing. And I think about the strange, quiet truth of it all. She didn't choose me because I was special. She chose me because I never demanded to be. The announcement changed my life in ways I didn't understand at first. For a while, I thought it would feel like winning something, like suddenly becoming important. But importance is loud, and this wasn't. This was quiet, bureaucratic, confusing. A lot of forms. A lot of people asking me questions I didn't know how to answer. SLN moved into a modest residence near one of Earth's coastal cities. No palace. No guarded tower. Just a place with too many windows and a view of an ocean she spent hours watching like it was trying to tell her a story. My job, officially, was to facilitate cultural integration and observational access. In reality, I helped her figure out public transport, explained why humans argued with screens, and once spent 3 hours trying to describe the emotional difference between a promise and a contract. You make many rules, she said afterward, and then spend much of your time looking for ways around them. That's painfully accurate, I admitted. The world didn't change overnight. Some people were angry. Some were disappointed. Some said the Celt were arrogant for refusing a traditional alliance. Others said we were fools for not forcing one. But something subtler began to happen. SLN started writing reports. Not about governments. Not about markets or military strength. About teachers, mechanics, nurses, street vendors, families who argued and still ate together. People who broke things and then tried, clumsily, to fix them. And slowly, Celt envoys started arriving, not to negotiate, but to observe, to live, to learn, not above us, with us. One evening, months later, we stood on that same overlook above the city, the air warm and full of distant noise. You could have chosen anyone, I said quietly. Someone smarter, braver, more impressive. Yes, she said, and they would have wanted to be chosen. I smiled a little at that. You still don't ask for much, she added. I don't really know how, I said. She turned to me, her eyes reflecting the scattered lights below. In my culture, she said, we believe the most dangerous desire is the desire to be owed. I thought about all the meetings, all the shouting, all the near disasters on the station. And what's the strongest? I asked. The desire to understand, she said, without needing to own. We stood there in silence for a while. Then she said softly, you know, my people are still watching you. That's slightly terrifying. It should not be, she said. You are not performing. You are simply continuing. I realized then that nothing about my life had become grand or legendary. I still fixed broken things, still lived in small spaces, still disappeared into crowds. But sometimes, when I watched a human and a Celt sit together, struggling through translation and misunderstandings and still trying anyway, I felt something settle into place. Not pride, not triumph, just rightness. Asilan once told me that civilizations weren't judged by what they could take, but by what they refused to demand. In the end, she didn't choose me because I was extraordinary. She chose me because I never tried to be. And somehow, that was exactly what our species needed to be seen for.